by house rules. I'm laid back like a couch crew. I'm that dude to make his own beats, writes his own rhymes, records his own shit. Probably why it takes so much time to put out an album. Man, I'm always behind schedule. Ain't that I ain't hungry, I just always got my plate full. Try to digest all the topics that I'm spitting. You need to sit back and actually take the time to listen. We living in a new age where mind states are feeble. Kids' attention spans are shorter than Danny DeVito. My beats dope, be banging, be about my business. Bass stays knocking like a Jehovah Witness. Leave them scattering with cheddar in the gang of rhyme patterns. I ain't worth challenging. You gon' need some aspirin. Aspiring to be me, no empires to feed. Just a chosen few that's flowing through, firing up the weed. Jesus, crazy what the world coming to. I'm here to live it, make music. For y'all is just hanging on a gimmick, huh? Wait a minute, man. Don't get me confused with none of these newbie ass rappers, man. I know the game be feeling fucked up, but I've been making beats since 95, regardless if I had the right promotion or not. Word up. Hey yo, I ain't always humble, I ain't always intense. I've had my good and bad days like anyone else, more or less. Probably a lot more than less, sort of more of it in a sense. Feel blessed, so I just move forward through the stress. But don't smoke stress, smoke the bombest weed you ever seen. Cannabis club category, certified Cali Green. Type of bomb that I keep up in my sack. They give a lot of cats anxiety attacks, there's no denying the facts. But enough about the weed though, I keep it on a need to know basis. It's time for me to cut to the chase quick. So download the free LP, spread it to your friends and family, even to the little haters mad at me. I got 2 official LPs coming after these. So far I'm grateful for the love that's coming back to me. Truly appreciate the support, especially my peeps that had my back when I was going in and out of court. But of course a shout out to all my people who kept the game alive instead of killing it, selling out with weak flows. My crew, anyone that gave an honest point of view, much respect besides me, man. I do this shit for you, yeah, for you.
Adults like to play games also. In this game, it's very important to listen to all the instructions. We're going to combine your things in this game.
Ha, so suspect. Now as my rhyme surpasses, see visions are overpasses. Some choose to overlook it, they should be looking past it. We hope for classics, we over you whack masters. Soul suspects, man, we fall from the average. People try to act like they shit don't stink. They'll be up shit's creek, plus they ships gon' sink. Now they knee deep in bullshit with nothing to think. On the brink of dealing with the most unpleasant of things. Time switch up, find ways to humble your strut. Just when you was thinking you was the next runner up, shit out of luck, yo, it's just the way it goes. I ain't gotta stress the rest, all you already know. From a distance, street lights start to filter in. Home from a round trip, had to visit new lands. Back in the building again, back to building with fans. Spaced out, sleep deprived, staring at the ceiling fan. So many things that they said to us, we was kids, but it was all bullshit. Yeah, open up your eyes. They would try to tell us one thing, then say the next thing. So I say, never listen to the lies. Man, everyone's a critic, just spit it how you live, it's how it's meant to be intended. So open up your eyes. It's all part of the game, ain't nothing but a dang dog. So I say, learn to read between. Yo, you going at it all wrong, so open your eyes. Yo, them cats be living life like they got 9 lives, so don't try. I hit very hard for my size, 6'2", a little over 185, so get it right. They tough talk is filled with fallacies. Believe none of what you hear and only half of what you see. So please, they can go and try to play the road as positive, but either way they talk with it, we know when they prerogative. Even if they polish up their image with some party tracks, we see through the lies, we ain't even need a polygraph. This is passion, the vibe is everlasting. It's better than the last one and colder than the aspens. Used to be overreacting, now I'm overreacting. Now pissed off, I'm mad, I mean I'm over here laughing. This shit is crazy, ain't it? The game is crazy, tainted, but I'ma do my thing and stay crazy fade. So many things that they said to us, we was kids, but it was all bullshit. Yeah, open up your eyes. They would try to tell us one thing, then say the next thing. So I say, never listen to the lies. Man, everyone's a critic, just spit it how you live, it's how it's meant to be intended. So open up your eyes. It's all part of the game, ain't nothing but a dang dog. So I say, learn to read between the lines. after midnight, when the sun goes down, the moon's up. Some of the best time to make music, so turn it up like the levels on my MP. Sound banks always got samples to say, they never empty. Dusty vinyl drums with the clicks and pops, 99-cent records. Mom and pop shops got 99-cent records, but a bitch ain't one. Music's kinda like my lady, so I treat her like one. Different than bitches I know that be scheming with no more. Feel peace among the night, been that way from the store. Putting beats in while other peeps are sleeping. Mixing frequent, till I'm reaching endless hours of the evening. Can't take breaks for long, music's calling my name. Ain't nothing better than making beats at night in the rain. Write on notebooks like graffiti writers, ride on trains. Rhymes I fill them in like the levels on my MP. Sound banks always got.
Hello, folks. Is this working? I don't know who was at that last thing, but wow, that was fun and crazy. Let's see. Hopefully you guys can see and hear me right now. Sorry for the late start. We were doing some live judging, which was crazy. Absolutely nuts. But a lot of fun to look at all of the talented entries. Looks like we have some folks here, and I appreciate you guys being here. So we have a little bit of a change for today. Who do we got here? We got Sarkot. Nice to meet you, man. Nice to see you. Vlad, good to see you again. Glad you were there. Thanks for hanging out. David, I'm glad you guys all enjoyed it. Stefan, the winner was Nuno, I believe. I think that was Nuno's image. It was the 5 images. That was kind of like a little piece of sequential art. It was awesome. Tasso, Clark, what's going on, guys? Good to see you. Juan, Alejandro, good. Welcome. So, getting a late start today. It looks like so we were gonna jump back into 3D today, but I actually have something else kind of surprising for us, which is good, because, I don't feel like the most creative after all of that. So we'll be looking at some stuff. Nuno. Amazing work all around. There were some that didn't make it into the finalists, like the first selection that Fabio did that I really wanted to see get there, and then cutting things was just tough. There's a lot of great work. That was Tassos. I'm glad it was understood as hilarious. We kind of figured that out a couple of minutes before we got on, and obviously we didn't figure it that far out. But Fabio and Jason are both great, and that was fun. So hopefully we'll be doing it again later. So for today, let me make sure that video actually rendered. This morning for my practice, I ended up painting over the rendering that we were working on yesterday. I think it did work. Is that all of it? That's not all of it. So let me see here. We have a few little things that are not quite working. Thanks to the live stream, I was a little bit preoccupied. Let me see where this is. Oh, you know what I can do? I think I can take the quick one. And let me see here. Pause. So what I ended up doing, sorry for the pause on that one. Let's do that. Let's see how long that takes. Okay, so yesterday we left and this image was about here. Where did OBS disappear to? Too many things open at the moment. And transition to Cintiq. There we go. So this was kind of the rough rendering that we were at yesterday at the end of the day. And the plan was for me to at some point go in and remodel these things. I was going to do it off screen, and I didn't. I was working on some other stuff, and I kind of got carried away. So for my daily practice this morning, I decided that I need to work on my ability to paint in color. So I spent about 45 minutes painting and came up with this, which I'm actually pretty happy with how it turned out. Hopefully you guys can see that. And so we kind of have a time lapse of the painting process to actually bring some color and mood into it. It's not perfect, but it was fun. So we're going to be watching a time lapse and chatting is kind of the plan. Let me find the other screen. I don't do a lot of like these types of paintovers in color typically, though I probably should get better at it. And so, is this it? Yes. And so I decided to practice it this morning, and since it seems appropriate, we will kind of take a look at what I tried to figure out doing color for paintovers. I think that painting over color is I think it's one of the reasons that a lot of painters have such a good sense of color is because they have to pick colors as opposed to just kind of tweaking what a renderer gives you. And so I feel like it's a skill worth developing. And we'll kind of see how I did here. So yeah, does this seem to be going faster? Let's see, playback, speed, faster. Yeah, we'll speed that up a little bit. That should be fine. Tassos, thank you. And like, I'm not sure that this was full. I feel like this kind of represents what I had in my head. I don't think I had complete control over it, but I think it's definitely indicative of where I thought it was going to go. But it was a challenge for me. This is definitely not a strong suit of mine. Color, I think in general, is super duper tough. Picking it kind of just from a color selector is super challenging. But it was a fun kind of process that I think I'll probably do more of in the future. Like I said, I'd spent about 45 minutes on this in real time. I have it playing faster. And I feel like I learned a lot, and I feel like I would like to be even better at it and faster at it. But yeah, I think that if I had just worked in 3D, I don't think I would have come up with quite these colors. For better or for worse. They might have been better if I was only working in 3D. But I think that these types of things, the more varied you can approach these things, the stronger you'll be in any given one. The more tools in your tool set, so to speak, especially when it comes to like thinking. The more that I've practiced paintovers and tried to do more thumbnailing, I've definitely found that when I'm in 3D, I'm thinking differently, and I have a better sense of why I'm making decisions I'm making. So yeah, I think I'm gonna keep doing that as much as possible. But you can kind of see how I'm trying to figure out colors here, and they kind of keep getting honed in towards the end, and I think this video misses the last couple color adjustments I made because OBS had a problem with Fabio, Jason, and I trying to talk and figure out, the shit show that was that last stream. As far as organization goes, we were trying to figure that out beforehand, and OBS quit. But yeah, I was happy to see a lot of you guys over there hanging out. And I was happy to see, when I was talking to Fabio beforehand, he asked how many entries I thought there would be. I'm like, 50 maybe? So I was off by a factor of 3 even when I was overshooting it. So I'm super psyched to see how many people contributed, and I'm looking forward to seeing what model Fabio's giving out for the next one. And then to see what you guys make. I would not have expected over half of the images that were in there. I thought they were absolutely beautiful. And just concepts that I wouldn't have come up with. So we're just gonna kind of sit and watch some paintings, enjoy another beer, and that's kind of the plan. There's no real strategy kind of that I had while doing this painting, so it's not like I was just kind of trying to figure out a methodology for it. I've watched a lot of other painters for how they work, and it seems to be as varied as there are artists doing paintings. I tried not to rely too much on like gradient maps, and I tried to pick colors because I felt like that was the smart thing to do, but I don't know if it's the best method or not. I think I probably could have gotten there quicker from the beginning, but it's a learning experience. So yeah, what else to talk about? One of the things I do like about the painting process is that you're getting instant feedback all of the time that you don't really get in 3D. 3D, you want to try something new and you got to make like a big move and a bunch of changes, whereas here you can kind of put a stroke down, see if it works or not, and go from there. So there's like an instantaneous feedback all the time, which is awesome. So yeah, where's everybody chiming in from today? We see obviously some familiar names, and I appreciate you guys coming back. I'm trying to think of what to talk about. Who knows? Yeah, I think I'm debating whether or not I should still go through and do this guy in 3D, or if I should just paint for a little bit longer on it. I kind of thought when I started doing this, I wasn't planning on showing it, or at least not the process, because I thought it was going to come out like complete garbage. And it actually got kind of closer to something I was happy with than I thought it was going to. Which is encouraging overall. Yeah, I feel like one of the things that separates like a lot of, especially people that do like sketching, is like some amount of confidence in their lines, which is something that I definitely don't have. But it's nice when you actually try and do something that you're uncomfortable with and you're happy with how it came out. And I'm sure that a week from now I will look at this and not be as thrilled with it, but that's the nature of trying to get better at something, I think. It could definitely be improved. I didn't use any photo overlays of any sort to give any like actual like photorealistic like ground or gravel or grass, which I could have done, I suppose. But that wasn't the intent. I wanted it to look painterly. Or painted. By the end of this is pretty much all painted. Yeah, I don't know. What were your guys' favorite images? Let's see what you guys thought of the. Now that I can actually pay attention to the chat, what did you guys think of the competition images for Fabio? And what was your guys' favorite? I think my favorite was. I'm not sure if Jake Williams is hanging out today in this chat, but his entry with Ryan Gosling, I think, was my favorite overall. But I was just blown away by so much of it. I would love to hear what you guys thought were the strongest entries. Juan, that's a great question, how I approach sketching process, and don't at all I appreciate any type of inspiration of things to talk about. So I don't do like this loose of sketching generally when it comes to my like actual like commercial ArcViz work, and I don't generally do like the thumbnails that got this whole project started, because there's I don't have the ability to say like this is the actual dimensions of a space and then draw that anyway accurately. What I do typically do for ArcViz stuff is more of taking a rendering and then going in and either relighting it in post or adjusting colors and maybe moving things around just with very rough moves to figure out, especially if I'm stumped or like something doesn't feel right and I can't figure it out in 3D, moving to 3D and going in and adjusting values, adjusting color, maybe scooting some things around in 2D is a great way for me at least to get that figured out. So it's not so much as like drawing things for my professional stuff as it is problem solving while I'm working in 3D. This kind of stuff is done commercially a lot, but not so much for ArcViz. This is more how like most concept designers work. In the game industry, VFX thumbnailing is used for storyboarding movies, obviously. But there they obviously have a lot more freedom than in a commercial ArcViz project where you actually have to represent a specific piece of architecture. So for that, I usually model it out, move cameras around, start playing with lighting, and if I feel like I'm stuck or not making progress, then I just save the render, bring it into Photoshop, and start trying to figure out what's not working. I still use 2D as a design tool or as a feedback tool, but a bit differently than I'm doing here. Vlad, yeah, the Blade Runner one was so rad, and Saba's was absolutely stunning. His color palette was probably my favorite overall. Those like purples and reds were just stunning. And yeah, I think if you look back on your old images and you're not happy with them, it just means you're getting better. And so That always makes me quite happy whenever I look at my work. I'm like, you didn't do a great job of that. I think to myself, okay, that just means I'm getting better. Yeah, it's a good sign. It can be frustrating at times, but it is what it is. Juan, I think that there are some artists that I kind of like vaguely know of, and one of them was in an industry chat, and I don't remember his name, but he was talking about that one of the services that he offers, particularly to interior designers, and I'm trying to glean a lot from like a kind of a side comment that he made, is that he goes on site with designers to like sketch on site, so that when they're looking at redoing a room, he's actually like giving them like real-time feedback on ideas. I'd love to know more about what exactly he does there. It seems like such a cool thing and then a powerful tool for someone that's like redesigning an existing space. And like sketches are used a lot in architecture, right? Like we see a lot of buildings getting promoted by like the concept sketch that was usually drawn not as a concept for promotional materials. But there's an incredible power to like the looseness of a sketch that is a hard place for architects to kind of live in, which is if you render something poorly, it's still very hard to say, no, this is just a sketch, because it just looks like a bad photograph. Naturally, rendering doesn't really give you that looseness. It looks like everything's definite. Just by the nature of things, you have to put a hard edge somewhere. A computer's not going to like just scribble a line. It's going to put an edge perfectly, whether that's exactly where you want it or whether it's more indicative of kind of what you're looking for. And actually, when I was working for Thomas Yule Hansen, which was after D-Box and before starting 3 Marks, one of the reasons that he hired me was that he had been making his like architects. The architects working for him had been making images to show to clients, right? Of like, here's our design, and here's how everything is going to kind of look. And they're designers, and they weren't, the renderings weren't great as far as like photorealistic goes. And he had a ton of problem with his clients being able to understand that, no, this is just kind of a sketch. And they would say, yeah, but it doesn't look good. And there was just a disconnect between the spaces he was designing and the way that he was showing them. And so his kind of thought was, we either need to go away from rendering altogether or make the renderings a lot better. Because if we're living in that kind of middle world of rendered but not rendered that well, you're asking a lot of the viewer to imagine what it's supposed to look like. I know that there are a few firms out there that don't use renderings for clients at all for this reason, because they find it's just too hard to actually produce something that looks like what they intend without distracting the client. Williams and Chen. What's the name of the firm? Their book is somewhere on that shelf. Why am I blanking on their name? They used to be set designers in LA. Roman and Williams. They do these like beautiful drawings that are actually sketches, and they're done over like screen grabs from like SketchUp or Rhino or whatever. So the perspective's right. It's actually representing the space, but there's a looseness to them. Let me show them to you. I can pull them up here. This is the Roman and Williams book. They started out, they were set designers or scene designers, builders in LA. Let's pause. Let me find a good example of how they show their work to their clients. Let me pause this for one moment and switch to the camera. So this is like the presentation drawings that they actually show to their clients. All right. And you can see the perspective is all worked out. Like it's not a sketch in the sense that, the space is still getting figured out, but the feeling of it is very loose, right? It leaves a lot of room for the imagination to kind of inhabit in a way that like rendering doesn't really leave that open to a lot of people. Here's another one. These are obviously more elevational. But that's how they present it to their clients, with the explicit reasoning being that like renderings at early stages in the process can be more harmful than helpful. I don't know if you guys know the Boom Boom Room at the top of the Standard Hotel. But, like, this is how they pitched that. Oops. Absolutely stunning. And I think there's a lot of power to those types of images. So yeah, I think that there is a place for sketching. Where it sits in ArcViz is kind of it depends. I mean, like, you look at a lot of competition work. If you look at the work of Luxagon or some of Mir's work, a lot of it is like very, very loose. I think actually a couple of Mir's images are painted. One was done, I think, with oils, and I think some were done digitally. And they do kind of say, like, this is the suggestion, encourages you to imagine where to go. And I think that that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. I think that figuring out how to get that to sit in with a 3D rendering is a challenge, right? Because do you paint over the whole thing? Is it about, just using atmosphere to kind of make everything obscured? I think it's kind of a combination of all of those things. But yeah, I'm all for sketchiness. I really, really like it. Things can definitely get too polished, in my opinion. So that played nice and fast. Yeah. I hope you guys were kind of paying attention. I was not actually paying attention to the video. But now you're looking at a white screen. There's no fun in that. So let's see. Let's go back to this guy. So this is where this is at currently. And I'm pretty happy with it. I feel like I'm torn between saying, like, should I see what I can do with this as a painting and just keep pushing it as a 2D project and skip 3D, or whether or not I should go back to 3D with it. Because there's a certain amount of me that feels like this could be a little bit more refined, and I think I could get the colors a little bit better. But I don't know that I could do that much better in 3D than this is kind of already suggesting in 2D. So yeah. What about the use of real-time for pre-production sketching? You see that happening sometime in the near future. I mean, real-time, it depends on whether you're saying for artists to use or to show to clients. Because there's definitely and looks like Clark is hitting on this. That's a great question, both Alejandro and Clark, and I think that there's a couple of things that to consider. One is how much you're giving your client who's commissioning images freedom to imagine where it's going to end, right? Because if you show something super rough that's going to become finished, that super rough thing needs to point pretty clearly in the direction you're going to go. Otherwise, you're going to end up with the white box syndrome of they imagine something else and they're not happy with the final product. From the kind of like next layer of how much freedom do you give the final image to be kind of interpreted? It's a fine line, I think. But if anything, photorealistic renderings tend to give very false expectations. There's been a number of articles written on like Architizer and the like that a lot of photorealistic renderings promise a building that is not actually the building that's going to exist. So it kind of cuts both ways. From an artistic standpoint, I think that the more a viewer of an image has to imagine the space and kind of has to grapple with the image to kind of get into the scene in a positive way, is a good thing. Like, I like that black and white images are one level of abstraction that forces you to kind of imagine color, even if you're not doing it consciously. And anytime that the image starts living inside of somebody's head, you've successfully gotten them to kind of invest in it, as opposed to an image that's like, okay, that's the thing, I see it, and I'm done. So I don't know if that even approaches an answer to what I think is a great question, but a very, very complex one. As far as real time goes, for stuff like this, it doesn't really matter, right? Real time as a design tool is already being used, and it's an amazing thing. I think that real time for still images won't be a huge change, because our interactive renderers still are giving us feedback so much more quickly than doing test renders, 8 years ago did. I do think that real time is going to completely change the game when it comes to how quickly and efficiently you can make a film for a client, right? Because you can see everything in real time. You could look at a final cut and the amount of time it takes to actually watch the thing. You could have that rendered out as opposed to looking at play blasts. So I think real time is going to really change that mode. Clark, how do you use real time within your firm, and what kind of phases do you find that it's had a huge impact on? I'd be really curious to know. But yeah, how much you show a client is always, I'm a big believer. Don't show your client anything that you don't want them to choose. So I don't like to show anything that I'm not prepared for them to say, yes, let's do that. Is kind of my general feeling on presenting to a client. Less is generally more. I'd rather show something more developed with fewer options than get their input at the beginning before I can show them something that's actually indicative of where it's going to end. Yeah, so let's see here. I don't know that I'm going to continue painting on this at all right now. What time is it? It's 2:30. Not the longest of streams, but we've had a lot of time, a lot of live time today between this and the Fabio and Jason stream. But I might draw on this some more and see if I can like, I'm kind of at this, where this is right now is kind of a mark of as comfortable as I feel painting, if not just a little bit further, because I don't usually paint anything in color, which kind of suggests that at least for personal practice, I'll probably spend another hour seeing if I can kind of bring a few things out that are bothering me. But whether or not we return to this in 3D or not, I don't know yet. Would love to know your guys' thoughts on it. We could try to render something like this. I had the feeling if I tried to render this, I would end up with a product that I liked less than where this is right now. Even if the image quality of that was better. That's kind of my gut feeling. Which makes me think, yeah, let's just see if we can push it further in the painting. Oh, Luca, you are the man. That's all I wanted, was a little bit of validation. Yes, I'm thinking maybe I'll do a little bit more painting on this between now and tomorrow's stream, and we can watch that and can kind of, maybe we'll do some new thumbnails. What am I doing tomorrow on the stream? I have no idea what I'm doing tomorrow on the stream. Luca, I do think I would be going backwards. Okay, and Clark too. All right, we're gonna keep painting. You guys are the best. Thank you. We use Enscape with Revit to walk the client through early in the project, usually with lower res textures and outlines so they get a sketchy feel, but a general understanding of scale and intent. And it sounds like from that statement that they actually do kind of get a sense of that. Well, I'm assuming you'd stop doing it if it wasn't working. Yeah, I've had a number of architects, and I'm assuming if you're using Revit that you're working at an architecture firm based off that comment. A number of architects have said that they've actually absolutely loved it, and obviously they can control where they show them on any given day. But as opposed to showing them either bad renderings or just 2D drawings, it gives them more of a sense. And if that's the case, that's a great thing. I wonder how that'll end up affecting ArcViz. I'm sure it will, right? Because clients will have seen more of a project and they'll have experience in a way that is not necessarily being communicated through a still image or even through a set film. So yeah, I guess it's really going to come down to storytelling and how beautiful we can make real-time stuff, which is getting better every day. Rock on. Okay, so do we call it there for today? I feel like it's been a long day of being present in front of a microphone. So I think I'm going to call it there for today, guys. And tomorrow we'll get back, and hopefully this will have gotten a lot better, and we can watch another kind of time-lapse of how that happened. I'll be curious to see how much this improves, or if it improves. Maybe it'll get worse. But I definitely feel like I'm at my skills edge, which is always a good place to probably continue pushing that. Right, that's where the learning happens, is in the levels of like discomfort, and where you get scared that you're going to mess something up as opposed to make it better. Because I'm looking at this and I'm thinking someone else would do a better job. So we're gonna try to do a better job. See if that person's gonna be me. All right, I think we're gonna cut there for the day. It's 2:30. We'll be back again tomorrow at our normal time. This upcoming week, we have a couple of guests, which I am super excited about. Jason, who I was hosting Fabio's competition with, and who is also one of the founders of the D2, is going to be on Tuesday, which is going to be awesome. And on Thursday, I have my good friend Patrick from AltShift. That's going to be on. We're going to talk about some of their work and what they've done. So mark your calendars. Tuesday and Thursday are going to be awesome. The other days are going to be more of the same, which will hopefully be awesome, or not bad at very least. I appreciate you guys coming and hanging out. That's all I got for you today. I think it's going to be a good week. Surprisingly, I was kind of shocked when I was typing in the news, the information for this one. This is the 15th live stream, which means that we're entering the third week of doing these. And I didn't start these at the beginning of the US lockdown. It does not feel like we've already been inside for 2 weeks, and it's crazy that we're going into the third week. So I hope everyone's still staying positive and that they feel like they're being productive even at home, and that they're staying healthy and washing their hands and all of that. But we're going to keep going with this as long as we're all on lockdown is the goal. Fingers crossed. So yeah, same time and place tomorrow. Looking forward to it. Guys, thank you for coming by. We will talk to you all soon. Until then, be well, enjoy your Sundays, and make something cool. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Cheers to you all. And now we go through the awkward time of saying goodbye and then finding the mouse, and then we got one button and two buttons.